Good morning. You're watching World Without Little Raw. We are here at the Southern Virginia homestead. This morning, I'm going to jar up some peppers. Let me show you. This is one I did a few weeks ago. And you can do sweet or hot. It's a beautiful pepper that I grew them in my garden. This one's a mix of jalapenos and bananas and cayenne. So depending on the level of hot you want, I've done just sweet banana, and for more sweet I put it in a brine and just put them in the fridge. And then I got them for salads, for sandwiches, for whatever. So I got a harvest here of peppers from the garden. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dump them in the sink. I put in some water, and I put about a cup of vinegar, white vinegar. Just use your basic white vinegar. And this here I'll just let them soak for 10 minutes or so, and that will, I've got a couple tomatoes in here, and that will kill any kind of germ or microbiological whatnot that comes in from the garden, just for sanitary purposes. So kind of show you that here. I'm just gonna soak those in there for probably about 10 minutes or so. I don't really can these per se. I'm gonna figure that out. I haven't really done any canning, but what I do is I just let the jars get to room temperature, the new jars. I boil the water with the brine in it. I put the peppers in with garlic and basil, whatever else I'm going to put in. I just pour the hot water over it, put the lid on. As it cools down, it sucks it down. So I know technically that's not canning, but you know, when you open them, you really got to pry the lid off. It's sealed pretty good. I don't put these like in a cellar to store them for a year or 9 months or whatever. So I feel that the process I use is good enough, because what I do when they cool down, I put them right in the fridge, and I use them practically every day. I'll use them on sandwiches, as I said, salads. Sometimes I'll just go in and take a fork and eat a bite of them. Honey, if you're watching this, I promise I don't double dip on the fork. But yeah, they're really good, and so you can make them to taste depending if you like hot, sweet, mild, whatever. And I'll show you how to make the brine. I'm going to let these sit for 10 minutes and we'll come back. Okay, the peppers are almost done. I'm going to start mixing up the brine. I'm not going to put it on the heat yet, but just to show you the ratio, we will use 1 cup of vinegar. I'm sorry, 2 cups of vinegar for every 1 cup of water. Now I'm going to have to at least double this. I'm going to try to figure out how much I need for the amount of peppers I have, but just to show you the ratio. So it's 2 to 1 water to vinegar. So I put 2 cups of vinegar, 1 cup of water. Generally, it'll be about a teaspoon of salt for every cup of water. And the sugar, the recipe calls for about the same. I usually cut the sugar down a little because I don't like it sweet. But again, you know, cooking is a science. I mean, cooking is more of an art than a science. I say it all the time. So it doesn't really matter what the recipe said. If you like it sweeter, use more sugar. If you like it saltier, use more salt. You know, use less sugar. Adjust to your tastes. The water and vinegar ratio, you probably want to keep it about the same, because you want that brine to have, you know, that consistency. And then again, you can put in whatever you want. Today I think I'm just going to add garlic. That doesn't go in the brine, that goes in the jars with the peppers. But I almost always add garlic. Earlier in the season, when the basil was doing really well and fresh, I would cut up some fresh basil in it as well. The basil's getting wilted and older. I'm letting it bolt to collect the seeds, so I still use it a little, but it's not as fresh, so I probably am going to forego the basil. You could use black pepper if you want. Again, it's to your taste. So I'm going to mix up the rest of this brine, set it aside, get it ready for the stove, and I'm going to start processing the peppers. Alright, in the process here, I just want to show you this. These are mostly for home use, so I'm not too particular about the jars. I've got these. I try to peel the labels off. I could have boiled them, peeled them off. They're just going in the fridge, and they're just going to be eaten on sandwiches and stuff, like I said, so I'm not too concerned about it. This is the jar. Now, this is a Classico tomato sauce. This is a quart jar, and it accepts the lids, the ball lids. So, a wide mouth jar, it's got the measurements on the side. Just so you know, if you do purchase jar sauce from time to time, this may not be a bad brand to consider getting. It's a good tasting brand, I enjoy it. And also, the jars can be used for canning. Now, of course, if you're going to store them in a cellar or give them away or whatever, you might want to peel the labels off a little better than I'm doing. But, yeah, that's just for your information. Alright, these soaked a while. I'm just going to turn on some cold water, and I'm going to rinse them. Now, they're obviously not all going to fit in here. I'm going to rinse them, and then I'm going to put them on this towel to dry, and then I'll start to process them. Alright, there's the peppers. Now, some of those peppers will not be going into the brine mix, or into the jar, the pickling jars. What I'm going to do is separate them out and get the hot separated from the sweet. Majority of the cayenne will be dried, and I put them in a jar and cut them or grind them into pepper flakes. And then a lot of them go into my food stores for, you know, down the road, should we need it. It could add a little zing to a pot of rice or beans, chili. It's, you know, it has medicinal qualities. Cayenne pepper is good for the heart, it's good for the blood, and so the majority of my cayenne peppers are going to be saved out for food storage. Now, some of them I use. If I have a jar with all like the banana peppers or whatever, I will use some cayenne to give it a little color, and give it a little zing if needed. But as I said, the majority will not be used today. They're going to be dried out for different purposes. Alright, so I'm going to begin to process a couple of the hot peppers. There's a number of ways to do this. Everybody does them differently from what I've seen, and that's fine. What I do, instead of cutting them all up on a cutting board, I just take them with the scissors, try to put it up here. I do it in the sink because it makes less of a mess. And I just, I'm not sure if that's showing that. Let me just tilt this up a little. Now I'll just cut these, and the hot peppers especially, seeds and all, that's where the hot is. Let's see, the seeds tend to, so I put them in the sink, and then it's less mess. My wife appreciates that. I do clean up when I'm done, but it's usually a different level of specifications needed, so she'll usually come in and clean to a different level, and that's fine. But I try to do what I can to keep it clean. And this is just one of those things. So now I'm going to do a couple habaneros. I know I should be wearing gloves. We're still unpacking. I couldn't find my gloves. So I'm just going to have to remember not to touch my eyes or skin or anything. But, so let's talk about heat, right? So I could do an entire jar of sweet banana peppers and put one habanero in there, right? A jar this big of just all sweet peppers and one habanero. And I'd probably have a mildly hot mix. So I'm putting a few habaneros in. This is going to be very hot. I may actually give this jar to a friend of mine. I'm going to Connecticut for a week-long church revival thing, and I have a good friend, brother in the Lord, who loves hot stuff and has made the claim that nothing could ever be too hot for him. And I would say that that's true because I've been out eating with him before, and he asks always at the restaurant for it to be the hottest it possibly can be, and he'll eat it with sweat pouring off of his brow, loving every minute of it. So I'm going to make up a couple scorchers for him, which, if I had thought this out a little better, I would have peeled the labels off the jars. But he's a close friend, he'll understand. So with the banana peppers, and a lot of you probably know this, when they fully ripen, they turn red. But they lose the crunch, some of the crunch, right? So the nice thing about peppers is they're edible at every stage of their life. When you get them like this, I don't know if you could hear that, right? Oh, there was a seed on the floor. That's how I like them, especially for the sandwiches and salads. So, if you're going to collect seeds from them, then you have to let them, these seeds aren't viable, and they won't be viable until they turn ripe, which for banana peppers is red, as far as I know, as far as my research has taught me. Am I an expert? No, I'm not. And I never usually let them get to the red stage. There's one that's pretty red, right? It's orange. But I think that, it doesn't matter because I know that the banana peppers, all peppers, are edible at every stage of ripeness. And as I said, I enjoy the crunch. So for that reason, I pick them usually a little bit before ripe. Some of these have started to turn orange. They've still got a decent crunch to them, and they will add a little color to the jar, which is nice. So I'm going to put a few more of these in, then I'm going to top it off, with another jalapeno, or habanero. Now, I'm sure that you all would love nothing more than to watch while I cut up all of these peppers into jars. But I'm going to pause the video and come back when I go to add the brine, when I go to do the brine. Okay, the brine is cooking. I've got 5 jars. I'm going to set them in the sink because that's where I'm going to do the pouring. This one is a lot of habaneros. I got one big whole habanero on top, but it's, let me clean this out a little first. But most of these are going to be hot. There aren't any that are just sweet, so it's kind of by design. I've got this, which is whole jalapenos. They're smaller. There's some red and some that are just turning. They were just all, of course, they all start out green, and then they turn to orange, and then they turn to red, and they're done. So these are whole habaneros. I'm sorry, jalapenos, and they're just small. These are whole habaneros. Adam, these are going for you, buddy. Same thing with these, whole habaneros. Got 2 small jars of those. And I might be running into some new friends. Not new friends, I've known them for a while, but meeting for the first time the end of September. And so if any of them really like super hot stuff, perhaps there's a jar or 2 in here for them. And these are the same thing, the hot pepper mix. These mixes are awesome. They're cut up the rings. They're great for sandwiches, as I said, salads. And then what I have left here, mainly big pile of mostly bananas. I think it's mostly banana peppers. There might be a couple little jalapenos. I don't think so, though. I think I got them all. I'm going to go ahead and just freeze these. And I'll freeze them whole. I'll put them in the vacuum sealer just like they are. I'll probably just cut the stems off and cut the stem off the top. Put a bunch in a, smaller to medium size vacuum pack. Maybe, 6 or 8, maybe like that. A couple more in a bag. And put them in the freezer, and then I can process them when I'm ready to use them. I'll vac them down. They won't get freezer burned. In the winter when I want some peppers, I'll take some out, cut them up. I can fry them in some oil and garlic, do whatever I want to do with them. Stuff them. A couple of these are big enough to stuff. I've never really done that, but that's something I want to play around with this winter too. So, okay, the brine is heating up, and when it's hot, I'm going to pour over the jars. I'm going to show you the rest of the process. It's pretty simple, and that'll be that. All right, we're adding the brine. Now, one thing I noticed about this brine, this is the first time I've ever put black pepper in it, and it's a little brown looking, which probably wasn't the wisest thing to do. But it's only an aesthetic thing. I'm sure it's all going to be good. Going to pour a filling on just a hair here. Let's see if I can cut that back. Fill it pretty quick. Here, just in case I have to top it off. Grab my little grabbers here. See that one? Looks like it's filled up to the proper level. That one could cool. This one, I'm going to try to just take a little bit off of it. That one can cool as well. One coming out the top, that's not good. Kind of shove those down. This is the whole jalapenos. This one might be just a hair too much. A couple teaspoons or so out of that. Maybe a couple more. I want to spill all that shoulder. I know people are going to watch this and be like, what's this knucklehead doing? The answer is, I really don't know. I'm learning as I go. And showing showing you the way I do it. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm trying to sugarcoat it. I'm sure there's better ways. If anybody wants to add some constructive criticism, I'm always happy to take it. So, those will sit there and cool. Then I will put the lids on them. Actually, the lids are going to go on now, because as they cool, they will draw the lids down. And so, like with canning, right, I know that the sterilization, these lids were all washed and, you know, they weren't boiled. But again, these things aren't going to be stored. They're going to be consumed. Well, the ones that I'm giving to Adam, I imagine he'll consume pretty good, but he'll put them in this fridge. I think as long as you put them in the fridge, stems are poking that one up. I'm going to just put it right on loosely. But as long as you put them in the fridge, which is what I do, then I feel pretty safe, right? Because when you open them, they go in the fridge. Bacteria gets on them and stuff. So I'm thinking like, and I could be wrong, but the sanitary aspect of it, like as far as boiling the lids and all that, boiling the jars, that's for if I was going to put them down in the root cellar. Because when these cool, they're going directly into the fridge. When I go up to Connecticut, I'm going to take a few, put them in a cooler, so they're never going to come down. They're going to always be cold, you know, chilled, refrigerated, and eaten right out of the fridge. So the ones I keep, I have several jars in the fridge now. And I'm eating a jar, this size jar, the pint jar, probably 1 week or, you know, a week and a half. So bigger jar lasts me a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, but they're not going to be stored in there for a long time. I eat them pretty regularly, and so again, that's why I'm not technically canning them. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. So now I'm going to process the rest of the peppers and freeze them. Alright, here's the peppers that I vacuum sealed. I've got several different, actually 2 different size bags. I make the bags out of the rolls. I don't buy the pre-made bags. But there's a narrower, smaller bag. There's one of the wider ones. And so, like for instance, these yellow bananas, I had a lot of them, so I did a few of the wider bags. Now what I'm going to do, probably unnecessary, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm just going to put these in a Ziploc bag. And I'll try to take as much of the air out as I can. It's just an added layer. These are freezer bags. Sit in there correctly. That one's too wide. Actually, I'm going to go another way with them here. Go that way. That makes more sense. Try to push out most of the air. And just another layer of protection for the frost and the freezer burn. I'm sure that they're probably okay just in the vacuum packs, but it's just how I do it. Alright, so that's it. I got my jars cooling. Right there. I've got these 2 were a little soft and pliable. They're a little overripe. So those will not go in the freezer. I'm going to take the seeds out of those because they are ripe. So the seeds are viable. So those will be saved for seed. And the cayenne, I'm going to put on the drying rack. And they will dry and be crushed into red pepper flakes or even a powder as I said, to add to rice or beans or whatever. It'll go in my food storage. And that's that. It's a beautiful day outside. And I'm going to go out and continue to work on my bug out trailer. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all. God bless you.